What's up, guys? Shane here, one of your Ski Town card commanders, and I'm here to perform what we like to call a deck tech. This is going to be based off the new set, as you see here, Throne of Eldraine. This is just the pre-release box we got for the pre-release tournament we played. I figured it'd be a nice, cool little background. But yeah, it's really cool. So far, we did our pre-release tournament, we've played our own tournament, and we've done a handful of games so far with these new cards. And the two new mechanics are pretty fun and quite game-changing, if I say so myself. So the easiest one will be the food token, token artifact, which is a food. Tap 2, sacrifice it, you gain 3 life. A lot of cards in this new set produce this card, or produce this artifact token, and it actually definitely saves your ass in certain aspects of the game. I know it saved me in a few moments in a couple different matches in the tournament we played, so definitely a fun little, definitely simple mechanic, but yeah. Next one is what we call going on an adventure. So this card represents a new exile pile, basically, separate from the normal exile pile, because in these new cards with adventures built in, it's like a spell within a spell, if you can see it. There we go. So you have your adventure card and you have your creature card. Now you can only pay the adventure first, put it into the special exile, then cast the creature later. You cannot do it in reverse. You cannot cast the creature card, then play its adventure. That's not how it works, folks. Sorry. But it is really fun because it kind of gives you 2 spells for the price of 1. For instance, this one's an instant, just return target permanent you control to its owner's hand. So you got to bounce a 1-drop bounce right there, and then you put it in special exile on its adventure, and then next turn, or if you have, you might be able to play it same turn, drop 2, put it out to the field. So that's how adventures work. Just want to put that out there and kind of give you a little example quick on the new Throne of Eldraine mechanics. So first off, I'm going to start with my mana. A lot of people, a lot of the pre-made decks, you'll notice, have like an immense amount of mana in there. I tend to cut that a little bit just because I live a little dangerously when it comes to mana. I usually only put about 20 mana in, depending on how many colors I'm using. For instance, this one's a mono white, which means just a white deck, basically. And so I have basically 20 creatures, 20 lands, and 20 of a mix of instant sorceries, enchantments, artifacts, stuff like that. So aside from just the regular planes, I have 4 copies, which is what is considered a play set in this game, of Idyllic Grange. Now, if I have 3 or more planes, I don't have to put this in tapped, and if I don't, I put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So I figured it'd be kind of important to have a play set of those. Aside from those 4, I have 16 normal planes cards. So pretty simple. That's my mana for the deck. 20, as I said. Obviously, if you feel like you're not getting enough mana in your deck, you might want to pump a couple more in there. 22, 23. I never go more than like 24 though. Now for the instant sorceries, enchantments, all that good stuff, I have a few singles here that I threw in here that are kind of, you kind of consider them sideboards. But I always run at least 1 or 2 enchantment busters. Not necessarily artifact, but definitely enchantment busters. I notice a lot of players don't even really have these or use it as a sideboard. I mean, I understand for sideboards, but enchantments are pretty predominant, especially in the newer Magic sets with usage. So I always recommend at least 1 or 2 enchantment busters in every deck. This one is a fun one because you can use an instant to basically gain protection from a color of your choice, and you get to scry. 1-drop, pretty awesome little uncommon. Now gaining protection also means you can block and no damage would assess because you're protected by said color, from said color, excuse me. Then of course we have the Silver Flame Ritual. A lot of adamant in here as well. If there isn't an adventure, usually it's an adamant trigger that I try to put in here. Some of the multiples I put in here, I put a couple aerial assaults in here. Destroy target tapped creature, you gain 1 life for each creature you control with flying. Especially with white decks, most decks in general, especially for me, you'll notice I'm really big on flyers because some people just kind of ignore the power of flying. I have a couple fortifying provisions in here, triggering my food mechanic. Get 1/0 for my creatures. When he enters the battlefield, you create a food token. So I have the possibility of creating a couple food tokens with these enchantments. 3-drop, not too bad, giving yourself extra toughness, your creatures. So I enjoy that. And that's about all I have for the food mechanic in here. I think I might have one other thing that can produce a food token. But it's always fun to have. Like I said, it was game-changing for me in a couple tournament matches. So always something cool to have. I have 2 of the Trapped in the Towers. 2-drop enchantment aura. Creature without flying, of course, is the stipulation. And they cannot attack or block. And their activated abilities cannot be activated. So that's fun because usually that's kind of a blue type spell. I believe the blue version is a 3-drop called Enchanted Sleep or something like that. Some type of, but it's basically the same card. So I'm sure that would play really well in a blue and white deck. This and the Enchanted Sleep. So just a good way to keep maybe a beefed character or a Voltron, as they say, out of the way, so you can try and get your hits in, especially with your flyers. Thought I had 2 of these in here, but maybe I do not. I run at least 1 weapon rack in here because you basically are giving yourself counters and beefing your creatures up. You know, this is also something cool for every deck. I use weapon rack at least 1 or 2 in every standard deck I have so far because it's just a good beef card, and it's continuous. You know, you get to do it 3 different times, so you don't necessarily have to beef up the same creature every time. So it's a fun little artifact. And I have 2 glass caskets. Basically, when they enter the battlefield, I get to exile a creature with converted mana 3 or less. So this is good early game. Also, definitely sideboard worthy. And just to let you guys know, I'm the player that kind of just plays with what I have. I don't think I only sought out 1 card outside of my collection for this deck, and that's just because I knew a friend had it. So, but I have 2 of these just to kind of, especially early game, this will help with those cheap, rare creatures that are like 1/1s that have like ridiculously awesome abilities for early game. I can kind of negate that with these. So if you notice, I kind of have a little bit of everything in this deck, which is what I try to do for standard stuff I plan on playing in a tournament. Once again, I always run enchantment busters. This card also allows me to draw a card, so it's an added bonus. So I decided to run 2 of these as opposed to 2 of the disenchants. True Love's Kiss just seemed like a no-brainer, being able to draw a card and exiling an artifact or enchantment, so that's pretty awesome. This is something that you could also, at least 1 of these, you could probably 1 or 2 of these you could sideboard. I like having them because most people don't expect beef for white. So blocking creature gets 7/7 until end of turn. It's a 1-drop, people. So even using 2 of these, making your creature 14/14 more than what it was before these 2 hit the battlefield. So I think this is a really good defense. And once again, these are uncommons, I believe. Yep, these are uncommons. So I think it's a ridiculously awesome uncommon for 1-drop. And so I decided to run 3 of them just for extra defense. And of course, our golden egg 2 of these, 2-drop. You can tap 1, sacrifice it, add a mana, or you can tap 2 and sacrifice it and gain 3 life, basically giving you another option at a food token. So this is my only other food token mechanic, basically. So that is my instant sorceries, enchantments, artifacts, all that good stuff for the white deck. Now we're going to move on to the creature base. Now, like I said, I have 20 of everything. A lot of these, I think there's 2 of them I have a playset of the creatures just because they're so effective. And you're going to see right away the first 3 here are the only mythics and rares in this entire deck. So, and it's kind of the reason I wanted to make this deck tech, to kind of show you that you don't have to spend a lot of money for these decks to be effective, especially in the newer sets. So the first one I have here is Hushbringer, Flying Lifelink 1/2 for 2-drop. Creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. So whenever it enters the battlefield or whenever it hits the graveyard, none of that works. It's all, as I like to call it, cock-blocked by the Hushbringer. And we'll move on to the next one, which is the Realm Cloak Giant. He has an adventure for 5 that destroys all non-giant creatures. So it's basically a board wipe, assuming that there are no other giants on the battlefield. Really, there aren't many giant creatures out there. I know Theros had some giants, and Cyclops and stuff like that, and Minotaurs. And then this one seems to have a handful of giants as well. But that's about it. There's not many other giants in any of the other Magic sets. So it's a good one to have. He's a 7/7 Vigilance on top of that when you pay his actual creature cost of 7. So that's pretty fucking sweet. He's definitely a late gamer, but also just really good to have, to put him on that adventure really quick, wipe the entire area, and then throw him out the next turn. And then, boom, you got a 7/7 where everybody else probably has like maybe a 5/5 or something like that, trying to recover from what you just did to them. So, and the next one I have is actually one of the promos I won in our tournament, and this is the Harmonious Archon. Now, this one has a setback, which definitely I would consider this a sideboard as well, just because I'm the type of player that I don't like to negatively affect myself in any way, even if it affects my opponent. So, non-archon creatures have a base power and toughness of 3/3, so that kind of hurts me if I have, say, Realm Cloak Giant out, and then I put the Archon out. That basically means he ends up turning into a 3/3. He still has Vigilance, but I mean he loses 4/4. So when he enters the battlefield, of course, 2 white human creature tokens also hit the battlefield with him. So 3 creatures for the price of 1. That's the kind of cool part about it. But still, something that I'm considering swapping out when I find me a better white creature. So, and mind you, that's one of my mythics. All the other creatures I have in here that are common or uncommon are pretty solid, and I'm probably going to keep them. Some more singles we have. We have the Dawning Angel, just a really good boost of life that you get when you put him in the battlefield, 4 life. So, and he's a 3/2 for 5. A little high cost in my opinion. Once again, some of these singles are something you could sideboard or switch for better creatures depending on what you have in your collection for white creatures. I also put in a Locthwain Gargoyle, just in the off chance that I don't have a flyer out or something like that. I have the chance of at least turning him into a flyer, so I could kind of activate my own trap card, make people think I don't have a flyer out, and then boom, pay 4 and he's instantly a flyer. So now we're going to get into a couple of the multiples I have. Of course, this is a really good 1-drop for this set. Ginger Brute, he's a 1/1 haste. He can't be blocked. If you pay 1, he can't be blocked by any creatures except for creatures with haste. And you can sack him to gain life. So, kind of giving you, he's a food golem, so it's kind of bringing that food token in. So I was wrong. There is another aspect of the food there in our Ginger Brutes here. So that's pretty cool. This guy helped me out immensely in tournaments where you know, we had a pretty equal battlefield, my opponent and I, and you know, there wasn't really much for guaranteed pings except for this guy. This guy gives you guaranteed pings for 1 as long as there's no other hasters on the battlefield opposing you. So I had to throw 2 of those in here because I think I have maybe 4 or 5 1/1s total in here for creatures, but they're so worth it just because they're really good pingers, as we like to call them. I have 2 of our Fairy Guild Mothers. If you'll notice, a lot of the creatures I have in here have adventures, and that's because of the next creature I'm going to throw out. But this one, you can give a creature flying and +2/+1 on the adventure, and then bring him out, or you could bring her, excuse me, because it's Fairy Guide Mother, but you could always bring her out first too. So I mean, this gives you the option of throwing a 1-drop out there. Remember, you don't have to pay this adventure cost first. You can just throw her out. But it is obviously beneficial to play that one first. Now, the reason why a lot of these creatures have adventures is because of Mysterious Pathfinder. Each creature you control that has an adventure enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So I had to put 3 of them in here because over half of my creatures have an adventure, if not half, a little under half maybe. So that will help out that'll help out to beef some of the creatures that I have out or I put out with Mysterious Pathfinder. And like I said, if you notice, a lot of these creatures have flying. White's really good with having just really powerful flyers in the set. So 2/2 for 3, but I mean with the additional ability, that makes it so much worth it. Alright, now this is my first creature play set, because I feel like this white card is very broken for an uncommon. Is Archon of Absolution, 3/2 Archon for, sorry, thumbs and shit. Alright, 3/2, 4-drop Archon flying, protection from white, and creatures can attack you or planeswalker you control unless their controller pays 1 colorless for each of those creatures. Now imagine if I had all 4 of my Archons on the battlefield. That means for 1 creature my opponent tries to attack me with, he has to now pay 4 colorless. And it can't be a white creature because my creatures have protection from white. So I felt like this, I mean, obviously you could run 2 or 3 if you wanted to and kind of throw, you know, something else in the mix for your deck, but I feel like this guy is so broke, he deserves to have a play set in this deck. And once again, an uncommon, I'm pretty sure Lang's has these for 25 cents a piece. So for $1, you get a play set of really cool white Archons. So that's one of my favorite cards in this entire deck, even in the Throne of Eldraine set itself, because I feel like it's just like, it reminds me of the Vampire Nighthawk, you know, super ridiculously powered uncommon card. And my last 4 creatures is a play set of Archfield Tacticians, with the adventure instant cost to tap 2 target creatures, and then for 2, and then obviously we play a 2/3 flyer afterwards. You know, mixed with the Pathlighters, bringing them up to 3/4s when they enter the battlefield. Depending on how many Pathlighters I have out. If I have 3 of them, they instantly jump to, 5/6s? So, I mean, it's a really good beef system with the Adventures and the Pathlighters. Nice, fun combo. But this gives you the ability to tap creatures as well, which is something you normally see in blue as well. So you kind of get a mix in this deck of other aspects and other colors, you know, blue, green. You know, there's not much burn or kill spell at all, so there's not really red or black, but still, it seems like every other color is somewhat represented in this deck. But yeah, that's basically it for my creatures and my deck tech in general for this. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I really thought this was a fun deck to make. Like I said, most of these cards are $1/4 at Lang's Comics here in Muskegon, and I'm sure any other shop that sells Magic cards, they're probably pretty cheap if you guys can buy singles like that. But there's a lot of mixed abilities in this deck that make it pretty unique. You know, the paying per creature. I get to tap creatures. There's a little bit of life gain with the food aspect. 3 different styles of food tokens. What else? We have, protection from colors in here. We have beef, which is something you see in green. We have some blue aspects, in here. So it's just a lot of really fun abilities and powers in a mono white deck. So it's pretty impressive. Not because I built it. I don't, I'm not tooting my own horn. But I mean, I've played a few series with it and did really well. So it's going to be probably one of the most fun of the standard decks that I've built so far. But anyways, that was the tech deck deck for Ski Town Commanders. I hope you guys enjoyed my white deck. I believe Dijaba is going to be our next one to throw you guys another deck. He has a really fun, I believe, commander deck he wants to show you guys and just kind of break down for you and kind of, probably a little better than I did, but we'll see. Anyways, enjoy.